This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
Welcome to Power Athlete Radio. This is Steve. I'm here with Denny and Luke. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
What is up?
Yeah, Denny, go Blackhawks.
Blackhawks, dude. Huge game last night. Huge game, especially after the third quarter when they get a shot called back because one of the back referees penalized a slight scuffle. I really wouldn't call it a straight-up fist fight, but they call back the goal, and, you can just kind of sense, like, heartache, right? And then they go in, they go in for the intermission, they come out in overtime, and I think in maybe the first 1 or 2 minutes, man, just shot straight in the net, game over. They're all fired up for L.A.
But the winning goal wasn't a pretty shot.
No, when they kept replaying it, you could kind of see it goes off of the Detroit player.
Yeah.
And right at that sweet spot where the goalie, this didn't have fast enough reaction time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was awesome, dude. And I guess if you look at the past 4 years in Stanley Cup, the Final Four right now are the past 4 champions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's freaking badass, So I'm pretty fired up. Pretty excited. First game's this Saturday, so,
Nice.
I don't know anything about the Kings.
Yeah.
Other than defending champ, and I don't know any of their players or nothing, but they got to be, obviously they're good.
Yeah, the NHL playoffs, I don't really care as long as the Penguins lose who wins the cup. Because there's only one real hockey team in Pennsylvania, and that's Flyers. So,
the Flyers.
Yeah. Except they got knocked out pretty early.
Speaking of the Flyers, real quick, Rob Zombie's making a movie about that 70s team that was just all hard asses that kicked everyone's ass.
Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah, the Broad Street Bullies, dude. He bought the rights to film that, and that's what he's doing right now.
No way, Zombie?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is going to be awesome.
I don't know. Combining Zombie and the Flyers. Whew.
Have you guys ever played any other sports with hockey players?
No.
Like off of the ice?
Yeah, have you seen a hockey player throw?
They're horrible.
Yeah, dude.
They're sick.
I'll tell you what, when they're in their arena, they're rock solid. But, dude, I had couple of my best friends are hockey players, and they're just awful. They're not on the softball team. They don't play flag football. But if there's any sort of pickup hockey, that's when they jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel your friend's pain. I'm the same way. If you get me, my buddies are always like, hey, you want to go play some basketball? I'm like, my shoulder hurts. Oh, it's so true. It's like, put a pair of skates on, and we're golden, but something about being on dry land. We suck. That's all there is to it. Spot on. Hey, Denny, team series is coming up in a couple weeks. Is your team ready?
Man, we're ready, dude. We're ready. We're just, like I mentioned in the other podcast, I don't really know what Power Athlete headquarters is going to throw at us, so we're just kind of doing heavy prowler intervals, doing the standard CrossFit football WODs, and just, knocking out in the strength. I was, back squatting yesterday and benched, and I'm going to do one or the other. And I was working up to a heavy 3 and just crushed it. I'll PR in whatever lift in 3 weeks, no matter what. But it looks like it's either going to be bench or squat. Probably bench.
Nice.
All right, dude,
yeah,
well, I'll see it there. That's my old stomping grounds. I know those guys. They have a great facility. But I'll be there for the first half of the day. Then I got some other stuff I got to pop out and do. But Callie's going to be there. I'm stoked, dude. I'm stoked to see it. I'm stoked to see it in person. I just get to watch it in the videos on the scoreboard, after every event.
Nice. Now, John said last time that a power athlete might be throwing a team in one of the competitions. Is that right?
I don't know. John's got all these great ideas, but in order to put it into practice, that means that our staff would have to be pulled out of running the event. And I don't know if that's the smartest move. You know what I mean?
Right. He just wants the plates.
Yeah, he wants the plates, and he wants to get in there and show people up.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, we all think it would be cool. This is the thing is we brainstormed this competition because this is what we think would be the best competition that we would all want to compete in. And the shitty part is we don't get to compete in it. We run it, we admit it, we organize it, we fund it, we do all this stuff, but we never, we don't get to play. Which I don't know, maybe next year or the year after, once it gets big enough and someone else decides to run it, or we get more staff, then we'll get to play around.
Nice. All right, cool. So on CrossFit Football today, one of the strength workouts was Barbell Step Ups, and John walked you through a video demonstration of the movement, and all over the CrossFit Football board, everybody, basically the quote was, "I've been doing it wrong forever." There's one guy on there, Jeff M., who wrote on there something like, "For 2.5 years I've been following and have done it wrong every single time." So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of the rationale behind that opposite leg mechanics, rather than just stepping up. I know, like, when I was doing some outlaw stuff, it would be you would step up and then you would when Outlaw did the Outlaw Open or something, you would touch the front of the foot to the box. Other sites you step up both feet on the box. Maybe could you elaborate on sort of the benefit of the raised leg?
Sure. It's all contextual, and it's funny to hear people say, like, I've been doing it wrong, or like there's no. I've said this before, and with the exception of some extreme examples, there's no wrong way to do a lot of this stuff, unless you really define context around what you're training for, right? Now, the CrossFit Football programming is about performance, it's about posture, stability, it's about developing speed in the weight room, all sorts of things that relate to field sport, nonlinear running, just performance. We call it performance. So the reason that we I did a little write-up on Power Athlete, the Power Athlete HQ post, and Dreadlock posted essentially the same question he put there, which is this. And it all comes down to posture and position. We find that athletes have a hard time mobilizing their hip in a neutral position when you add some sort of what we consider to be primal movement, lower body primal movement. So people cannot mobilize their hips when they step up, when they lunge, or when they squat. We see all sorts of pelvic tilting that breaks what we consider would promote a broken position. Now, what we know about that is once you exit that broken position, your ability to generate force is going to diminish, and you won't be as efficient and you won't be as fast in terms of running. So coordinating that step up with a barbell loaded at the CT junction while mobilizing the hip starts to build the skill to really be rigid when you accelerate. So if you look at the acceleration phase of, let's say, a 100-meter sprinter, 200-meter sprinter right out of the blocks, you're going to see that position, but with a much more exaggerated torso lean. So if people head over to, or I'll put up a link in the show notes, but if they just take a look at my response to our movement demo comments, that they'll kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
where you're talking about maintaining that dorsiflexion in your ankle as you're lowering that the opposite leg.
So I commented just a couple hours ago, but in terms of the dorsiflexion, anytime your feet come off the ground, you should be dorsiflexed. What we know is that dorsiflex position and what prepares your foot to generate all sorts of force along both the vertical and horizontal vector. Okay? So think about your foot driving into the ground, your hip extending, your knee extending, everything driving into the ground, whether you're jumping or running. What we know is that the dorsiflex position is a loaded position and will help generate force. All right. What we also know is the more force you generate along that vertical vector and horizontal vector, the faster you're going to be, the quicker you're going to accelerate. Okay. So with that in mind, we need to be comfortable in that position. There's this whole concept of coordination. Some people have a hard time lifting their leg without having their toe pointed towards the ground or being in that plantar flexed position. They just can't do it. And it's a neurological coordination deal. And if you don't work on that on every time you're picking your foot up off the ground, whether it's with a barbell step up, whether it's a box jump, whether it's double unders, then you're not going to do that when you're running. So we're reinforcing the required positioning everywhere in our body on every movement we do in the weight room. So let's say you're doing double unders and you're letting your toes dangle. Then what you're ultimately doing is you're creating a bad habit for when it really counts, because not too many people make their money doing double unders. Especially if you're an athlete, you earn your bread sprinting, changing direction. That's how you stay safe. And what we also know is if you have a dangling foot, we know that landing could be a forced eccentric movement through the ankle. It could really stress the calves, could really stress your Achilles. So ultimately, it's just a safer position. It's a more efficient position. Every time your feet come off the ground, you should think about going from plantar flexion, from the follow-through of your drive phase, like your triple extension on your jump or whatever you're doing, immediately into that dorsiflex position.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. I think that should answer everyone's questions
right there.
I know. That's cool.
Yeah,
I hope it does. I mean, I was hoping the video would answer questions, but I guess it didn't really. It just told you what to do, not why to do it.
I think what we're getting on CrossFit football on the boards is a lot of smart people, right? Like they want to know how to do it, but they're really curious about why. And so I think that's where some of these questions are coming from. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it because you told me to do it, and whatever you say has worked for me. But what is the rationale behind it? I think that's kind of, we got some smart folks on there just fishing around trying to figure it out.
Well, I appreciate I appreciate it, but rest assured, there's a method to all the madness, so to speak. In the interesting thing, like I said, anything works, everything works. But if you're looking for optimal results for a very specific goal, the little things do add up and do amount to a much more optimal program,
Yeah, I mean, that just makes sense, right? So,
if you people who ask those kind of questions, if you haven't read like a book like Super Training, or Science and Practice of Strength Training, I was brushing up on both of those just because listening to Luke and John and pretty much, Callie, all you guys are always talking about motor units, and the neuromuscular response and all the training. And when I was watching the video of the Barbell Step Ups, I was thinking more of, when I heard John say that this is translated into faster sprints on the field, I was thinking more of the motor unit response, driving off that front leg onto the box, I visualize it like the initial takeoff on the sprint, and that hold, right with the dorsiflexed ankle on the opposite leg, bringing it up there above parallel, just kind of like repeating the mechanics of a sprint, is like you're recruiting as much motor units as possible for the most like explosive movement. And even if you're the greatest sprinter in the world, you're going to need to keep practicing movements like that to maintain or improve. And it just seems like it's all correlated as far as their CrossFit football programming. That's like my initial response to it. And then listening to Luke just a few minutes ago kind of elaborate on all that, it just like it all makes sense, it's all clear, purposeful. What are you training for?
Yeah, and we refer to it at the CERT like a movement bank. Your body doesn't really care about It does, but in the sense of programming correct movement pattern, it doesn't care about speed and it doesn't care about weight. Now, those things will challenge your ability to do that. Don't get me wrong, but when you're talking about programming good movement, your body knows good movement and it knows bad movement. You can program bad movement by doing bad movement, and the more that you're exercising or going through bad movement patterns, the more you're deteriorating your good movement patterns. Does that make sense? So think of it like deposits and withdrawals. Obviously, the good movement being the currency in your pocket, the bad movement being withdrawals. You want to be much more weighted towards that good movement, and that's where we say, there's certain training systems where it's just about output, and that's fine. Like for that goal, for a training goal, if your training goal is weight loss, then go. It's about getting a high heart rate. It's about keeping it. Go for it. Especially if you're not going to apply a lot of the stuff you're doing in the weight room to any sort of sport or field of battle, field of competition, whatever. But at the end of the day, movement is what makes people great on the field. In hockey players, even in their rink, on their skates, all that stuff is programmed movement. I remember when I was like 8 years old, I wanted to play hockey. But before you could play hockey, you had to take 2 years of skate camp because that's an essential skill to be on. Like, you can't just be a mediocre skater and be an excellent hockey player. You need to start programming those skills and programming that movement. And really, it's just as essential to be that efficient of a runner. If you take a young athlete and get them in gymnastics and you teach them movement before they do anything else, they're going to be much more effective people or much more effective athletes on majority of arenas of competition. So it's really all about movement. And then what we do is movement, posture, position. We challenge all that stuff by loading you with weird implements or very convenient implements like barbells, sandbags, things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes total sense. Denny, I'm going to take this first submission, okay? Because I have a strong opinion about this.
The garage gym.
Yeah, so Bulldozer202 asks something. He says, well, first off, I'm going to go to his second question first, and then I'll answer his first question. But Luke, he says, somewhat confused about resets, like how and when it is necessary. Any thoughts on a reset? I think he's talking about amateur programming resets. And
is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't we talk about this? Like,
I feel like
a 30-minute rant on accident.
I feel like we did.
Let's get real simple. Okay, I'm gonna put rigid guidelines to this. All right. If you are on the amateur progression, first and foremost, your progression should last no longer than 20 weeks. If after 20 weeks, it no longer becomes optimal. Okay. Now, if you don't care about optimal training and you just really like it, then keep going. But don't tell us that it's not working anymore. Okay. Number two, when should you or what weight should you start at? Something really manageable. Be conservative. Okay. Number three, if you fail a rep, fail a set. Let's talk about some certain types of failures. Let's say we're doing a back squat 3x5 and it's Monday. And you're 10 weeks in, so you've put 100 pounds on your squat. Let's say you started at 250, now you're at 350 pounds for 3x5. You come in, the first set of 5 is a little shaky, you're seeing stars, you have what I like to call squat head. All right. Second set you get in, you're on your 5th rep, you're down, you're up, the rep takes like 4 seconds. You don't even rack the weight, you just dump it because you're so tired. All right, so we know the third set's going to be a little rough. You come into that third set, then and you hit, let's say, 3 or 4 reps, you have failed, and you don't need to get your reps or any more reps or anything. You have failed that 3x5. Now, that doesn't sound to me like an epic failure. And you or your coach should know whether it's because you didn't get sleep, you got drunk on Memorial Day, ate a bunch of hot dogs, you broke up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. I don't know. There could be all sorts of sociological factors that have influenced your ability to perform on that day. So we would mark that one up as a scratch. Now, let's say you come in on Thursday and you're squatting your 3x5 again. And on the first set, you get 5. On the second set, you get 2. And you can't even get onto your third set because you're throwing up. I don't know, because the weight's so heavy. If it feels that heavy, that means you cannot effectively recover from the volume and intensity that we've been adding week over week. Then you should reset 3 weeks. But let's take another scenario. You get your 3x5. Then you don't need to reset. Let's say you, again, get like a 5.54 or 5.53, and you haven't epically failed. That's going to be shooter's choice because, again, I don't know what's happened. Is work rough? Are you sick? Have you not been sleeping well? Are you hydrated? I don't know what the deal is, but that just doesn't sound like a true failed set. That just sounds like you need a little more time to recover. Then let's see what happens on Monday. I would not increase the weight on either of those days if you get like a 5.54, 5.53 cadence on your reps.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that all those other things affect us, and we just think that we ought to be able to go into the gym and do whatever is prescribed because we're strong. And like you said, sleep, recovery, too much drinking on Memorial Day, breakup, all those things are going to affect us. And I think a lot of us forget about things like that, right? Like, you have a fight with your wife that lasts like 2 weeks. Well, you might be distracted in the weight room and you might be carrying some cortisol and some stress, and that's going to affect you negatively. But it's not like you said epic failure, like where you're throwing up on before you even get to set 2.
Right. Now, the assumption, too, like what failure is to me is you need to compromise form to get a rep. So if your knees are buckling in, your back is rounding, your chin is craned up towards the ceiling, and there's a little piss dribbling down your leg to stand up your 5th rep or 3rd rep, and you somehow you can mentally get through 4 and 5. Like, you need to maintain posture and position. That's what we need to strengthen. It's not about it is about the numbers, but it's not. Position always takes precedence. And what a lot of people forget, too, is like, dude, we're talking about a 20-week endeavor potentially, probably 12 to 15. But you have time. Like, you're not going to quit tomorrow. There's not a race to the finish. Like, do it right. Do it right. It's good. This establishes something called base level of strength, and that stuff stays with you for a lifetime. So that's when you reset.
Awesome. So I know we said last time we're not going to take any more questions about amateur programming, but maybe this time we can actually say it, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think they'd have to get really creative to come up with more questions about amateur programming.
The only way, and it's going to be based off of coach's decision, if you have an athlete for a very short window of time who is very young. So, for example, you have a team of football players who are 14 years old, and you see them only in the summer for 10 weeks. Like, there's going to be a lot of kind of work and rework there where you don't really graduate from that amateur progression until you are on a strength training regimen where you are going to be able to stick to it for long periods of time. And I hope I didn't just confuse everybody. Don't even ask me about it because we're not going to answer it. That's you guys need to figure that out on your own. Pick up a book, like Denny said. Get Mel says Super Training, Science of Practices. It's sometimes you just can't take a handout and you got to earn it.
Yeah, for real. All right, cool. All right, so the other question Bulldozer asks, Bulldozer202 asks, is for us garage gymmers, what would be the best type of barbell for all-around movements? Would an ollie bar have too much whip for squats, deads, presses? Would power bar be too stiff for power cleans and snatches? So I'm going to go ahead and throw my 2 cents in here. Bulldozer, unless you are like of an elite caliber lifter, an average bar is going to be fine for both. I mean, I would recommend something economical like the Rogue bar. I know Denny bitches on the Rogue bar all the time, but the Rogue bar is fine. I mean, you can squat, you can snatch. It's not an Alico bar, but who has $2,000 to spend on an Alico bar? Now, if you have a few more dollars to spend, I would recommend. That's your kids, Denny, right? If you have a few more dollars to spend, I would recommend buying a DHS training bar. DHS can be bought from dynamicalico.com. The bars are, I mean, they're not as good as an Alico training bar or an Alico competition bar, but they are the closest thing to an Alico. I mean, I train with Caleb Williams, national champion weightlifter, and he prefers the DHS bars to his Alico competition bars. And they run about $500-600, so they're about twice the cost of a Rogue bar. But I don't know how you feel about that, Luke. I feel like, you know, again, it's something maybe like what John was saying last time, where it's like, you know, you just have to do it. So, you know, having a perfect bar is not going to make, like, if I go get a $4,000 Alico, my snatch is not going to go up 200 kilograms, right? And if I go buy a West Side power bar, I'm not going to deadlift, you know, 900 tomorrow. At some point, those details that we're looking for, you know, it's a trade-off between how much quality you think you need and how much economical freedom you have to outfit your garage gym. I mean, I've lifted on some really shitty bars and I've lifted on some really good bars, and you can certainly tell the difference when you're at the extreme. But when you're in the middle, like that Rogue bar, that DHS bar, the differences, at least to me, I've been doing this a little while, but the differences to me are so subtle that, you know, you would really have to be, I think, an elite, dedicated athlete in one of the two sports to notice a difference. But I don't know how you guys feel.
Well, I'm fortunate. I'm spoiled. I mean, we have every bar you can imagine. You know, we have some really nice bars at Balboa. And if you guys ever get out and get to visit, you know, the only other gym I've seen with more bars and more equipment is Jesse Burdick's gym, CrossFit CSA. We were just up there a few months ago, but I can tell the difference. But like you said, Steve, it's not like, you know, it doesn't not work. You know, if I'm cleaning on John's Alico bar versus cleaning on just Rogue's power bar, there's a difference. I can tell it's nicer. The knurling's different. You do get more whip. But like you said, dude, it doesn't help me PR. It just you can feel the difference in the quality. And no matter what you do, it's going to get you from A to B. Right.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's weird. It's kind of been our mantra, John and I and Ben and all of us at HQ over here. Is like, we just got to move the dirt today. It's time to move the dirt, just because our training's been suffering, because we're doing a lot of cool stuff over here trying to grow this thing. And unfortunately, trainings for me is taken, like, I don't want to say a back seat, but it's just not priority at this point. I'm trying to shift momentum on that, but it's about moving the dirt. You get whatever bar you can, put some heavy weights on there, and go do it. You know. Yeah. But again, if you have disposable income, dude, it's nice. It's like driving a Camry versus a Cadillac, or I don't know what the reference would be now.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Like, you can, definitely has a different feel to it, but it doesn't make you any better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, yeah, if you're in the $200 to $600 range for a bar, I'd say DHS or Rogue. I think, again, Faster makes a bar in that realm. Probably stay away from those ones you can get on Amazon that you have to screw together. But you know what I mean? But I mean, other than that, you know, if it's a long piece of steel and it holds weights, you're gonna get better as long as you. I mean, the bar should be secondary to the things we were talking about earlier, which are position, posture, etc. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Denny, you have any thoughts?
Well, what's your opinion between bearing bars and bushing bars? You know, I mean, typically the bearings are a few $100s more. The other day I was lifting on a Penlay bar that was bushing, and it was kind of a beat up bar. A friend of mine's friend brought it over. This thing looked like it's been sitting outside for a year. It wasn't really polished looking, but it barely spun, you know?
Yeah.
And a few weeks ago, I was down at Alico, lifting weights with John North. And of course, if you're going to go to an Alico gym, every single bar is Alico, top line, beautiful, lightweight. And you can put your foot on that and give it a spin, and it'll just spin like it seems forever, And obviously those were like bearing bars, and if you're talking saving a couple of $100 and you're going to downgrade to a bushing, does it make that much of a difference or not? Do you know? I mean, like I was saying, the bushing bar that I used, it could have spun shitty because it's, all beat up. But
so, I mean, again, I'll just give my 2 cents here, because I ran a garage gym and I had that bar that looked like everybody had to get a tetanus shot after they used it, type of thing. And the thing that I've learned that's most important, independent of the type of bar, is maintenance of the bars, right? If your garage floods, don't store your bar on the ground. If it's humid, make sure you have a way of dealing with that humidity and its effects on the rotational factor of the bar. Keep your bar lubricated. And if you buy your bar from a reputable place, they ought to be able to sell you some kind of either bearing or bushing lubrication, and keep it relatively clean. I know that sounds weird to say, like, keep a garage gym barbell clean, but a bar is an essential part of your gym, and if you've only got 1 or 2, then its maintenance is an imperative. And I like Luke's example about the difference between driving a Camry and a Cadillac. The maintenance is going to be, in my opinion, the maintenance is kind of the same. The Camry you take to the Jiffy Lube, and the Cadillac has to go in for like special treatment at the Cadillac farm or whatever. That's been kind of my impression with taking care of the different kinds of bars. But I've used them all, and I'm with Luke that you notice the difference. Again, if there's no spin on the bar, that's a lot of difference. But if there's a little spin, you notice the difference. But I think very quickly your body adapts to that, and maybe you won't PR, maybe you will. It's not the bar, it's you and your movement and your strength and all the things we've been talking about. That's just my 2 cents.
I think some of it's the bar. I mean, I'm not fortunate enough to train at a facility that has, a shitload of money invested in bars at the moment. But when I do get to a place to train, every now and then I'll go down and train with Windy City Weightlifting down in Schaumburg and stuff like that. When I get my hands on Alico bars or real nice Ivanko bars, I PR. I've PR'd every single time, man. Now I don't, obviously I'm not doing that every weekend, but there's just more. If I can get that bar to oscillate better, I can nail that jerk. I can get that clean if I can get some snap and whip in there. You give me a bar just like your straight up $200 rogue bar that has like 0 oscillation. It's impressive if you can clean some good weight on that, because that bar is freaking not oscillating at all. Yeah, those are the bars I hate. I know. But if you're gonna deadlift on it, if you're gonna bench, squat, so be it. It'll work. But I want a bar that'll oscillate, man. Give me some,
So maybe it's personal preference, right? Maybe, if you're following CrossFit football, you're doing power cleans and power snatches once a week, right? And so, it's a trade-off between sort of economics and can you really feel the difference? But I reckon that if you buy a bar and you use that same bar week after week after week of training, independent of what program you're on, you're going to get better. And yes, sure, you might go to a facility with a top-notch set of equipment, and you might find that new stimulus produces APR in that situation. But then you go back to your training facility and you just keep trucking along and making small gains and getting bigger and more badass.
Yeah, and you know what? Get yourself a decent bar. I mean, it's like when I was on, I played pool league for 8-10 years. I mean, you could go into a bar and play in the a shitty bar stick all warped and bent, or you can throw down a couple hundred and get a decent stick. You don't need to throw down and get the top line. which would be like a McDermott or something like that. Just get something good, that you can call yours, and you can lay next to it in bed and whisper sweet nothings into its ear, Be one with the bar.
Denny, get out a little more, bro.
Too far? Too much? All right, let's go on to Gilmore Greco's question.
All right, it's all you, bro.
Well, he sounds like he's concerned with the fat loss potential in CrossFit football programming. I was a lineman in high school, tipped the scales about 315. Now he's at 325, and he calls himself pretty fat. Sounds like he's had some, weightlifting, he says, pretty seriously for the past couple years. He doesn't want to just be strong and not fast.
Denny.
Yeah.
Denny, read the whole question. Just read it as is.
Read it as is.
Yeah, just read it as is.
I know this CrossFit football is not wired towards fat loss, but I was a lineman in high school mostly because I weighed 315. I now tip the scales at about 325, and I'm pretty fat. I've weight trained pretty seriously for the past couple of years, but I don't just want to be strong. I want to be fast, too. I heard Jim Wendler say that the sacrifice you make to be a great power lifter is your health. All that being said, I don't really care about abs, but I know that I am not healthy. Will following CrossFit football conflict with trying to become healthy, or should I do something else? I'd like to get my life together so that I can kick ass when I'm 80. There it is.
I mean, I don't have the show notes in front of me because I had to close everything down. But what's the guy's name again? Gilmore?
Gilmore Greco.
All right, so Gilmore, will CrossFit, like, what a loaded question, you know what I mean?
Right.
In terms of longevity, if his primary goal is longevity, then he should just, be hypocaloric, stick to a paleo-type lifestyle, call Rob Wolf or subscribe to Rob's podcast because that dude's our health and longevity guru, right? And he probably should just lift some weights maybe once or twice a week and start walking a ton and get a lot of sleep. And there's his longevity recipe. But now he's taking advice from Jim Wendler, who, I mean, he's not a longevity expert, right? So it's like, I don't know where this guy's head's at, but at the end of the day, he's got to establish some goals. And what he's got to do is once he draws these goals up on a board, he's got to make sure that he can measure them so he can determine whether or not he was successful. But before he can even go that far, he has to determine whether or not they're in conflict with one another. So I don't know if this guy wants to be a power lifter. I don't know if his primary goal, one and only goal, is to live till he's 100 or if it's weight loss. But can you use CrossFit football to lose weight? Sure. But it all is contingent on your sleep cycle. It's all contingent on your lifestyle outside of the gym and your nutrition. Is it the most optimal program for weight loss? I'm not going to say yes, because at the end of the day, it's not designed for weight loss. It's designed for performance. It's designed for building high horsepower, short duration athletes. That's what we consider a power athlete. I mean, you guys have followed this thing for a couple years. Would you, if someone came into you, was 325 pounds and said, hey, I'm fat, I'm not healthy, what would you recommend CrossFit football as my number one option? What are you guys going to say?
No, because it's set. If someone comes in and says I'm fat and my total priority is to lose weight, then you have to be in like more of that oxidative pathway most of your time, most of your conditioning to burn that fat. CrossFit football is like ATP and the glycolytic pathways. There is some of the oxidative, you're going to be breathing hard and, hands on your hips kind of a thing, but it's kind of like interval You know, this guy would need something that's just straight up oxidative nonstop for, 10, 15 minutes, if that's possible, long duration, just to keep burning that fat. And then maybe once he gets to a certain body weight that he's comfortable with, kind of reassess where he's heading, then maybe go into more of a CrossFit football, where you can get some strength and power and explosiveness and hit that deep, like myofibrillar hypertrophy.
See, I don't know. So I'm a little bit with you, Luke, on the confusion here, right? Because it's like he wants to lose weight, but then he makes reference to Wendler saying something about being a great power lifter, but then later it's like, I just want to be healthy. Like, look, you can be 300 pounds plus or minus a few pounds and be healthy. So it's like you said, I think if you want to look like an Abercrombie model, then no, please do not do CrossFit football because you won't fit in the skinny jeans, right? But if you want to be 295 or 275 and be strong and powerful, then yeah, I think coupled with the diet, I think it could be good. I think coupled with a power athlete diet or a Rob Wolf paleo diet, then CrossFit football could cause you to shed a few pounds and get strong and powerful and fast. So I think it's like you said, it's about goals. If you want to lose weight, no. If you want to be lean, healthy, badass, then maybe, maybe a version of CrossFit football is good. But that's just my 2 cents. I think, did we lose you, Luke? Denny, you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, we lost Luke.
No way.
Luke, we lost you.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, he's there.
Well, he just came back.
Oh.
Yeah, you guys dropped me earlier, too. And I'm monitoring my connection. It's bulletproof. I don't know. It's a Skype deal.
Okay.
But if you basically where I cut out, Steve, and you probably are going to still be recording on your end and we could still use it.
Okay.
I cut out at, you can still be healthy at 300 pounds is where you drop.
Yeah. So, I think that's the truth. I think you can still be, you can be 300 pounds and be a big, badass, lean MFer. So if you want to lose weight and look like an Abercrombie model, then CrossFit football wouldn't be for you, right? But if you want to be big and strong and powerful and maybe lean up a little bit, he says he doesn't care about abs, then, I don't see why a version of CrossFit football, maybe changing up the Saturday WOD to something in that oxidative pathway, maybe like a jog or a walk or something. But, it's about goals. It goes back to the same question every time, which is, what are you training for? If you send in a question that says, I want to lose weight, but I'm taking advice on how to be healthy from Jim Wendler, who's a power lifter, and I really want to be healthy. Okay, which one is it? Those are potentially 3 diametrically opposed goals.
Yeah. And real quick, because I don't know, I feel like the internet feels like everyone's talking shit. We know Jim. We're good friends with Jim. Jim's a good coach. So this isn't bashing Jim.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Yeah. In terms of, I know John's one of the only people who monitors his biomarkers for health and longevity like every 2 weeks. And he follows CrossFit football style program. He doesn't do the main site, but he's that we publish our workouts on, but he's constantly varying. He's trying to find the next solution, but it's all the same philosophies. And he's a super healthy dude, but what it comes down to is like nutrition. It comes down to sleep. And yeah, sure, I'm not going to say you're going to be unhealthy. People who follow the program aren't unhealthy. It's just not optimal if your goal is weight loss.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that before. All right, cool. Any closing notes from HQ, Luke?
We are in the Southwest regionals. Callie and Chelsea are going to be there testing verts, so get over there, check those chicks out. They're super fun, and we got some discounts there as well. For certs, you got to sign up at the booth, and for the team series, any team series as well. So if there's any athletes or attendees or whoever's out there, get over to the booth, say what's up, grab a shirt, grab some swag, and sign up for a cert.
grab some socks. The socks are dope.
Aren't they?
The socks are cool.
The socks are dope. And I'm going to go ahead and make this announcement since I get ragged on every episode except this one. I'm signing up for the DC cert.
It's official?
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't signed up yet, but I'm going to. It's official. We're going to make like a family trip out of it. I hung out with Tex this past weekend or whenever. He came through our neck of the woods and trained with us before on his way down to Texas. Yeah, so he's cool. And I think I'm going to go up and hang out. I think it might be him and Callie doing that cert. Did Callie tell me?
I know they're going to be there. I don't know who else. I mean, that cert, I'm trying to think. There's a couple dozen people headed over there, and it, you know, what's tricky is our travel schedules are typically figured out 2 weeks in advance based off of attendance, and then people typically signed up the last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we got to like float it, but we're. I think there's a rumor has it there could be a potential birthday celebration out there, so we're trying to maybe make a staff travel. You know, like a bring the whole crew type deal on that one. We'll see.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so that's it. Denny, anything from your end?
Team series 3 weeks away, getting pretty stoked. The week after that, you guys are going to be at Naperville, right?
That's
Luke,
right.
are you going to come down for that one and kind of circle back where it all started from?
Of course, I'm. How could I not? I fly in the night of the 14th, and I'm staying for like 11 days. So I'm gonna make a little family trip out of it as well. See some family, see a lot of the folks out there, work the team series, and then I believe Ben and I, depending on signups, we might have one more coach out there, but it's gonna be Ben and I taking down the Naperville seminar, blowing some minds.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that one, man. I'm looking forward to see how the seminars changed, you know?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's going to be good stuff.
Cool, man.
Awesome.
All right, well, then I guess we're done here. Power Athlete is out.